Welcome, everybody, to the SMC Journal podcast, the show where it's all about performance engineering in IT today. That includes testing, tuning, optimization, digital experience, anything in between, hardware, software, it doesn't matter. I am Scott Moore, your host, and I really appreciate you joining me. This is actually the second of a two-part episode where we're talking to Jonathon Wright of Keysight Technologies about the digital twin technology that's out there. In our first part, we talked about what actually is it and why do we as performance engineers care. Jonathon now wants to talk about kind of where we go from here and how it's going to be used and some of the challenges that are around. Now, we're going to get right to that interview, but before we do, let's talk about the sponsors that make this show happen. This episode is sponsored by Micro Focus and the LoadRunner Solutions family. That includes LoadRunner Professional, Enterprise, Cloud, and Developer. You know, performance matters. Did you know that LoadRunner Solutions have the largest community of practitioners in the world? Join that community at community.microfocus.com, scan the QR code, and check out the LoadRunner family page on performance engineering, as well as their YouTube playlist that we've got links for in the show notes on smcjournal.com as well as YouTube. This episode is sponsored by Performance Lab. They're a provider of premier load and performance testing services for enterprises in all industries. They focus on a robust methodology, tools, and the experienced engineers that know what they're doing. Since 2008, they have built a reputation for reliability worldwide. BoomQ is their own innovative performance testing platform. However, they also consult around many industry standard load testing tools like JMeter, LoadRunner, and others. Find out more at performancelabus.com. This episode is sponsored by Stormforge. The Stormforge platform focuses on AI-powered software designed to help DevOps teams release with confidence and help your IT leaders realize the promise of cloud native. That means faster innovation, higher quality, resiliency, scalability, and efficiency. Find out more at stormforge.io. Okay, we're going to get right back into this interview with Jonathon Wright and let him talk about some of the other things around digital twin that make it possible for us to emulate real devices and their surroundings, and then some of the questions that are being asked of them today, which include, well, how would you actually emulate an entire metaverse? Interesting discussion. Let's go to that now. For testers who you've captured their interest and are wanting to leverage digital twin technology, is this something that Keysight has integrated into the Eggplant software for the test suite, or is it a separate product, or how does it work within the products?
Yeah, so very much like the Shunra solution, which we're familiar with, is we've got a software network virtualization capability, which we've built into things like our mobile labs, so our device management, so you can connect anything via USB. Even USB devices are from, cloud farms, which we announced last month. And you then can add in these profiles. So you could have a device, as someone that's driving around in a connected car for a German manufacturer, which I can't say, but, who's, on a 4G connection. And when I literally was in Munich the other day, they turned around and said, yeah, we take the cars out and we pull into parking garages under the ground so that we can lose the signal. You can then kind of say, okay, I want to turn the signal off, or I want it to start losing the signal. Okay, well, what does that mean for the IVI, the integrated system within the car, which is reliant on that connectivity? What does that mean for CarPlay, right? If you're kind of starting with the smart app and saying, oh, I've got an appointment with Scott, I need to go and meet him for some ribs. And then, you send an updated location for a new rib place you've found, your car automatically starts, reprogramming, or Waze takes you to there. And we're actually doing things with Google on this kind of tech so that you can prove it works on CarPlay, it works on, your phone, and it's all seamless, and it just doesn't say, can't find the location because we don't have any internet connectivity.
And what's the name of the product that people would use to do this?
So it's actually classed as the Eggplant mobile gateway, which is,
got it.
It's focused on mobile, but we do have it for other things. And that's when we start bringing in our our scalable network friends who actually provide the physical hardware, so they can bring in physical network emulation like Shunra used to also do, which you can put into your racks. You can start, doing things at a lower level. But actually, I kind of teased about this kind of viewpoint of the metaverse, and my last night's or the day before's call was with I know there's a guy called Mark who runs it, a large VR based company who are spending 30 billion on what they call the edge metaverse. And for us, we'd call it a CDN, right? It's a how do you connect in? And I've just come from the Workspaces app at the moment. How do I connect in and collaborate in a shared collaboration space? And everybody else who's dialing in is coexisted next to me. And my developers were all in the room, and we had someone from our US office turn up. And straight away, the person was just like, their avatar was just jumping over the table because the responses were suddenly got a lot slower for all of us because we're whiteboarding over here, someone's showing a presentation over here. Suddenly, those kind of the latency is a real issue, and it's not only last mile, which is really important. Where we got used to being quite, I'm going to say, lazy with caching and CDNs being in availability zones that allow us less of a round trip based on dependencies of what third-party API you're calling, but actually more around, okay, what is your infrastructure at your local endpoint, right? If you've got sharing that with 8 other people in the house and they're all pulling the bath with you, you remember the quads days of saying, yes, I want this to be prioritized. We're getting to that point where we need that 20 milliseconds response in our local network, which is kind of why things like Wi-Fi 6 appeared, or even 6G. We launched, I don't know if you saw it on Keysight, but we launched the first ever 6G wave, which in its essence doesn't sound that exciting. But if you think about Hewlett and Packard, who started that same piece of equipment off back in 1938 and created the first piece of test equipment, which they sold to Disney. That company is Keysight. Hewlett and Packard went off and built that. And that's where I was last week on the manufacturing plant of Santa Rosa and Silicon Valley, was Hewlett and Packard had created this testing and equipment company to do that. And now we're measuring these 6G spectrums, which mean that, like what 5G did for IoT, which was allow us a lot more devices on concurrency, now it's giving us a bigger range, which is more bandwidth and an even lower latency, which could mean, may or may not mean, these metaverse companies are going to move away from VR, which is kind of maybe a consumer kind of product, to mixed reality headsets like HoloLens. And Google glasses have just announced at Google I/O for them to be able to launch in 2024. Apple are going to do Apple glasses, and of course they're going to augment on top of them. Scott's just connected with you, or Scott's about to start running a performance test. Do you want to jump into that session? We can start seeing these new edge devices that, a bit like the IoT estate that we know exist, but actually we're going to start utilizing them instead of mobile devices. And then we're going to see this move from, your app stores and your Play stores to, and this was what my call was today with another Indian global system integrator who's setting up one of these labs to show people, because, people are going to start building applications and in new and interesting ways, and hopefully get rid of us all looking at screens all the time. And also mobile devices are just generally quite hard work to test and have a whole stack of them. In the same way, the VR company we're talking to are saying, we want all this, to emulate an entire metaverse. Well, that's we're going to need a bigger digital twin, in the words of, I don't know, whoever it is. But yeah, it's really interesting, and we're at the forefront of this open RAN architecture for the next generation of network and devices. So exciting times, but the good thing is performance engineers are going to be incredibly busy for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Well, that sounds exciting to me, and thank you for explaining that and kind of breaking it down for us. Is there anything that you want to talk to our viewers about in terms of near future things that you're going to be involved in? Are there any events or any things you want to mention?
Yeah, so there's a really exciting development which we was demoing the other day. So I was in, I think it was Swiss Testing Days, or it was the Eurostar conference, and I know we've talked about it before about creating a digital twin from understanding what's happening in the real world. And if you go to the demo, which I did actually on the stage, never do live demos. This is what I've learned. You'll see that Keysight.com has an RCI file if you go into the network developer tools, which is sending beacon data to allow us to create this model, this digital twin, which then allows whatever those transactions happened in the last 10, 15 minutes on the website, we can rerun them. Now, that's a pretty party trick, and it is also quite useful for creating performance scenarios based on real users and knowing their devices, location, maybe a little bit about their network connectivity, which, yes, Google Analytics can tell you. But the more exciting thing is I'm working with Todd, which you noticed from Splunk, to look at open telemetry. So bringing in, doing the same with Dynatrace, bringing in the open telemetry to build those models, which I think will be really useful because we might then be able to start utilizing them for performance. At the moment, we don't. We just use them for functional. And that's what is available in the product today. But, I'm aspirationally, hopefully, work with you and the community to work out, well, how do we even do that? If we've got this information, what do we do? And then this week, we started doing log analytics and open tracing. And actually, we just finished that off. And that is, in essence, PAL. So if you remember the performance application lifecycle, which we were talking about, I know Wilson used to love it to bits as well, which went end of life quite recently. It's this kind of ability to do any kind of, any log analytics like Log4j, minus the vulnerabilities. You can pull that information in to create a model. And I remember doing this, 2010 with Flex data services, right? Everything was an XML payload. So you could then just parse the XML payload and know exactly how long everyone spent buying tickets at what kind of time and what frequency at, what part of the day. It was fantastic. But actually now having that kind of ease of, you can either do log analytics, open telemetry, open tracing, the telemetry beacon data. That's, I think, a really good start for people to start creating digital twins, and that's hopefully the stepping stone for us to be kind of launching some new big announcements, Star West and a few other events, which I'm really excited about. And I know the Star West one is going to talk about performance. It's going to talk about mobile, and it's also going to talk about a bit of the metaverse. So excited about that, and hopefully, we'll have, in another 6 months' time, we'll have something in the performance space where I'll be able to say to you, download this today and it will change your life. We are taking small steps towards, the way that we can help, hopefully, the performance engineering team as well to leverage some of this stuff. And I know you've had the chance to look at our Eggplant performance tool, previously Facilita, which was my favorite tool back in 2010 because of its Citrix support. But yeah, we hopefully will be dusting that off and really adding some new features to help, performance engineers everywhere.
That's great. I look forward to seeing that and reviewing it. And maybe when you're back over here, we can meet up for those conferences and talk a little bit more one-on-one in person instead of doing the virtual thing. But thanks so much for being on the podcast today. And you're always welcome to come back and talk whenever you want to. But got to make sure we at least talk every 6 months, okay?
Absolutely. And yeah, we'll have to get you on the QA Lead podcast as well. We're doing a Keysight podcast soon. So watch this space, and we'll make sure you're on there because you're, a shining star when it comes to performance. You may be, the shining star of the performance community. So,
I'm just looking for the day when we've got a car that will drive me to the nearest rib restaurant automatically. Get that, I'm in, okay?
Yep. I'm doing the same. I was in San Fran last week, and they have the autonomous Uber trials. So they're doing where the car just comes to the hotel, to the bar or wherever you are, restaurant, picks you up, and all you do have to do is just keep on tapping the steering wheel every so often. But yeah, we're nearly there. Once we get past the autonomous cars and move to car 2X, then all the cars will be talking to each other. Then we only need to wait 40 years until everyone's cars are broken and they have to buy a car 2X car, and then it'll all work. So not that long to go, but we are definitely we're overdue some ribs, and next time I'm over, we'll make sure we get on the performance tower or we do something exciting.
Sounds good to me. As always, great talking to you, Jonathan, and we'll see you soon. Okay, well, did you learn anything about digital twin? I certainly did. I'd like to know what you think about this conversation and any questions that may remain in your mind that you'd like to get some answers to. Give me that feedback. I'm very easy to find on the internet. You can find me at scottmoore.consulting, smcjournal.com. There's my Twitter handle and my LinkedIn URL to get to me and connect with me. Feel free to connect with me. If you like what you're seeing on this video, then subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get more of this content. You'll be notified when we release new episodes, and that kind of tells me if I'm on the right track. Just like to send me a good old-fashioned email, you can do so at help@scottmoore.consulting. So until next time, this is Scott Moore for the SMC Journal podcast saying thank you for watching and bye-bye.